Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a task, feeling like you just couldn't bring yourself to finish it? Maybe you've been putting off studying for an upcoming exam, or you've had a pile of laundry waiting to be folded for days, and despite knowing you needed to get these things done, you just couldn't seem to muster up the energy or the motivation to do so. Even worse, when you tried to explain this to others, maybe they would respond with something like, "Oh, you're just being lazy." Have you ever felt misunderstood in this way? Well, if you have, know that there could be a scientific reason behind why you're experiencing this. You might not be lazy at all. Instead, you might be mentally over. Now, this is a term that psychologist and author Dr. Victoria Tarrant coined in her book Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. According to Dr. Tarrant, we're reliving in an era where our brains are constantly bombarded with an overwhelming amount of stimuli from social media notifications, emails, news alerts, and the like. This overstimulation leaves our brains in a state of constant alertness and stress, which can lead to feelings of being overwhelmed, drained, and unable to focus, ultimately mimicking the symptoms of laziness. In today's video, we want to talk more about this phenomenon and how you can use this knowledge to work towards breaking out of the cycle. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that this video is not intended to be a substitute for professional help. If you are struggling with symptoms of depression or anxiety, please reach out to a qualified mental health provider. That said, we hope this information will shed some light on a different perspective that might help you better understand yourself and your situation. So what does the research say about mental overstimulation? According to Dr. Taranto, our brain has a limited capacity to process information. However, in today's fast-paced digital world, we are often bombarded with more information than we can handle. The constant pressure to respond to emails, text messages, and social media notifications triggers a stress response in our body, releasing hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which can lead to feelings of anxiety and overwhelm. Prolonged exposure to this state of hyperarousal can result in burnout, which is characterized by a lack of motivation, energy, and focus. To illustrate this point, let's look at the example of a student who's trying to study for an upcoming exam. The student might be feeling really motivated initially and start studying right away. But, after a few hours, they might start to feel overwhelmed by the amount of material they still have left to cover. They might find themselves daydreaming or getting distracted by their phone or social media, even though they know they should be studying. Despite feeling unmotivated and the student might feel guilty or even angry with themselves for not being able to focus and may end up taking a break. After the break, they might feel refreshed and ready to tackle their studies again, only for the same cycle of feeling overwhelmed and unmotivated to repeat itself again a few hours later. This cycle can continue until the exam, leading to feelings of exhaustion and burnout. Another aspect of mental overstimulation is the pressure to be constantly connected. With the rise of smartphones and social media, we are always just a few swipes away from being bombarded with notifications and updates. This constant accessibility can blur the boundaries between our personal and professional lives, making it difficult to disconnect and relax. Even when we are not working, we may feel the need to respond to messages or check our social media feeds, which can prevent our brains from fully resting and recovering. But how can we tell if we're mentally overstimulated versus actually lazy? Well, here's the thing. Mental overstimulation and laziness might share similar outward symptoms, but they stem from very different places. Laziness is often associated with a lack of motivation or care, whereas mental overstimulation is usually the result of being burnt out and overwhelmed. Someone who's mentally overstimulated might procrastinate or struggle to focus, but it's usually because they're feeling swamped and exhausted, not because they don't care. It's also important to remember that everyone experiences overstimulation differently. Some people might become agitated or anxious, while others might withdraw and isolate themselves. Some might lash out or become easily frustrated, while others might start daydreaming or dissociating to cope. So if you're struggling to focus or get things done, it might not be laziness you're dealing with, but mental overstimulation masquerading as such. Okay, so now that we understand a bit more about mental overstimulation, let's discuss what we can do about it. Here are a few ways to help you reclaim your productivity and refocus your energy. 1. Create space for stillness. One of the best ways to deal with mental overstimulation is to create space for stillness in your life. This doesn't mean you need to spend hours in meditation every day. Even just taking a few deep breaths or sitting in silence for a few minutes can make a big difference. When you give your brain time to rest, you'll be able to focus better when it's time to get back to work. Some ways to incorporate stillness into your daily routine include setting aside time for mindfulness or meditation, taking breaks in nature, engaging in hobbies that bring you joy and disconnection from technology when possible. By making stillness a priority, you can give your brain the downtime it needs to process information more efficiently. 2. Set boundaries around distractions. Another great way to deal with mental overstimulation is to set boundaries around distractions. This might mean turning off notifications on your phone or closing unnecessary tabs when you're retrying to focus. It can also help to create physical boundaries between your work and relaxation spaces. This can be as simple as closing the door to your office or setting up a specific desk for work. By minimizing distractions, you'll be able to direct your attention toward the task at hand and avoid getting overwhelmed. You can also try using website blockers or apps to limit the time you spend on social media or other distracting websites. By taking control of your environment, you can create a space that supports your focus and productivity. 3. Practice self-compassion. One of the most important things you can do for yourself is to practice self-compassion. When you're feeling mentally overstimulated, it's easy to beat yourself up for not being more productive or for making mistakes. But this kind of self-criticism will only make things worse. Instead, try to be patient and kind to yourself. Remember that you're not lazy or unmotivated. You're burnt out and need time to rest. Treat yourself the way you would treat a friend or loved one, and remember that everyone struggles sometimes. You're not alone. Practicing self-compassion can help you build a positive relationship with yourself and make it easier to bounce back from setbacks. 4. Seek support when needed. Finally, don't hesitate to seek support when you need it. Talk to friends, family, or a therapist about what you're going through. Sharing your struggles can help you feel less alone and can give you new perspectives on how to deal with them. It can also be helpful to connect with others who are going through similar experiences. There are many online and offline communities where you can share tips and resources for managing mental overstimulation. Reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. By leaning on your support system, you'll be able to tackle mental overstimulation more effectively. Mental overstimulation is a real phenomenon that can affect anyone. When we're constantly bombarded with notifications, emails, and messages, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and unproductive. But instead of labeling ourselves as lazy, we can take steps to understand and manage our mental health. By creating space for stillness, setting boundaries around distractions, practicing self-compassion, and seeking support when needed, we can overcome mental overstimulation and reclaim our focus and well-being. Did you relate to this video? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you liked this video, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.